Howdy, and welcome to a tea party like no other. It's Friends Day Fridays on Tea Time with Afternoon Social. Presenting Steph West, social coach, Starfish Social Club founder, and podcast host. Grab your favorite teacup. Good afternoon, and welcome to Friends Day Fridays. I'm your host, Teresa Lauterbach, and we're here again with Steph West. We had a great talk yesterday on Triumphant Thursdays about Ironman competitions. So if you didn't see that video, please go back to view that one. But today we're going to find out from her all about her business of teaching neurodivergent students, that she has started a Starfish Social Club for these kids that are in that category. And so today, Steph, I'm going to have you turn it over to you a little bit and explain to us what neurodivergent means and give us a little bit of background on your club that the Starfish Social Club that you organized. Hi, Steph.
Absolutely. So neurodivergent is an umbrella category label that basically describes anybody whose brain operates differently than the quote unquote norm. So the most common diagnoses that fall under that category are autism, ADHD, learning disabilities, but really it's anybody who thinks differently than the norm. So there's actually a whole range of things that can fall under that. But those are the most common: autism, ADHD, learning disabilities, things like that. Those are the most common things that people identify with underneath that term neurodivergent. So I run Starfish Social Club, which is a program I created from scratch. It's actually... I also have ADHD, which I wasn't diagnosed until 2 years ago, which is super interesting considering what I do for a living. Right. So I just got my diagnosis 2 years ago, but I'm a very impulsive person. And when most people hear that word, it has a negative connotation. Most people hear impulsivity and they think of people who act without thinking, people who do things that, they regret. I don't see impulsivity that way. I do see that I act without thinking. But to me, my impulsivity is one of my superpowers, along with my creativity. I really love the fact that I'm impulsive because it keeps me from getting in my own head about stuff. It keeps me from, developing anxiety and self-doubt and negative self-talk. If there's something I want to try or that I want to do, I do whatever the first step is. So, we were talking about the Ironman competition, click the button and sign up. Whenever there's something that I want to try or I want to do, I just do it. And it's interesting because I tend to do things that are on a much bigger scale because of that. So, like an Ironman competition, running my own business. I'm not a business brain at all. The business part of it is actually pretty challenging for me. So I did not start my business because I wanted to run a business. But even things like I've only been published in one publication and it's Forbes. Right. So it's just like, let's just do this big impulsive thing. Right. The first podcast I was on is a podcast with 5 million downloads. So It's just, what do I think I can get away with is almost kind of how I see it. Yeah. So the way that my business started was when I was working in the public school system as a behavior specialist and an administrator. I went to a workshop on a social skills program that I was already very familiar with. And this was in April of 2016. And in their workshop, they were talking about how every summer they host a conference and practitioners who use their resources can apply to present at their conference. And I immediately thought, okay, I'm going to be at this conference in, I think it was in June or July, one of the two. I'm going to be at this conference. And so in order to do that, I need to start using their resources, on a regular, routine. So I just thought, I was listening to everything that they were doing, and I just thought, I'm going to do this on my own. Because, working for any organization, but I think especially large organizations like the government, the school system, right? These huge organizations, there's just not a lot of opportunity for people to do things their own way or try things that are new or different.
Right.
And so I just decided that I was just going to start my own. And to me, when I have those thoughts, they're very logical and rational. It's
Right.
like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start my own. So that was in April of 2016. In May of 2016, I had registered the business. I had gotten a website, a Facebook page. I have a lot of connections in the special needs community in my city. So I started reaching out to people. In June of 2016, I had my first summer camp. And that summer I went to California and I presented at the conference that I actually had to apply for in May because that was their deadline. So I kind of did things backwards. I had already applied to present at the conference before my business was even up and running.
Right.
But I just see, if I see or hear something and I think that would be cool, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to try it.
Yeah.
So I've now had my business for 7 years, and it is still a local business here in San Antonio, but I've also expanded to doing Zoom classes. And right now on my waiting list, I have people from 4 other states and another country on my waiting list. Last month I had a workshop, and there were people on my workshop from South Africa, Canada, Australia, Germany. So this is what has become of this business I just started completely impulsively and on the fly. I just, when something crops up and I think, oh, that sounds cool, I'm just going to go for it. I'm working on getting my private pilot's license because I just thought, oh, that sounds cool. I'm in various stages of fluency in 3 other languages. I just really like not putting a lot of boundaries on myself, and my impulsivity, instead of seeing it in a negative light, I actually really love it because it puts me out there in ways that I think most people don't put themselves out there. Mm-hmm. And it's the Michael Jordan quote, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. If I'm not trying to do these things, they're definitely not going to happen. And they may still not happen even if I try to do them. But they're guaranteed to not happen if I don't just go for it. But doing things really quickly keeps me from overthinking it.
Yeah. It's like a balance. We were talking yesterday about how you were pacing yourself in those competitions, and I understand the impulsivity too, because a lot of people are like, how can you do so much? I'm like, well, how can I not? Yeah. When you're creative and like you said, the impulsive, and that brain just doesn't want to shut off. It's like, well, why should I start at the bottom? I'm going to start right up here at the top and just go. Yeah.
I think I don't consider myself to be a very logical, realistic person. I definitely don't. I operate out of emotion. And so if something feels good to me, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do it. If something feels like it would be really fun and exciting, I'm going to go for it.
Right.
And there's not a lot of me that's super logical.
Yeah, I've had a lot of different career type things and tried this and that, and I thought, well, it's not all a waste of time, because now the business that I'm trying to put together and everything, all those pieces now fit. And so like you've had a wide background as well with being a teacher and then an administrator. If you hadn't had those experiences, it would have been 10 times more difficult to develop the business that you have. So,
and I think, having the background that I had helped me see the need for my business.
yes.
Right. If I hadn't been in those positions, I wouldn't see the need for what I do. And I wouldn't, I'm the only person I know of who does what I do. I don't know anybody else who does, services like mine, or I wrote my own curriculum. I don't know anybody else who talks about the things that I talk about, but it's because I spent so much time working in the school system that I could see what works, what doesn't work, what the kids need, what they're not getting, what I'm good at, what I can help with. It just helps all the pieces fall together.
Right. I think that helps our listeners out there that get that unstuck.
Mm-hmm.
And find, like you said, find that need, why is this nagging at you to go do this thing, and get that, just beyond just going for it, to give you that confidence that you can just go for it and do it. You had when you wrote it, there was a little quote that you put on your application. When you have an idea, you are already equipped to handle it.
Yeah, I really believe that. I believe that we don't get ideas that aren't meant for us. I don't think that happens. I don't think the signals get crossed in the universe. I believe that when you have an idea, it's because it's meant for you. I do know that sometimes ideas I have don't materialize until several years later. That happens to me quite a bit, actually, that when I have the idea, it doesn't make sense to me and the pieces don't fit together. But there's several things that have happened in my business and my life that I had the idea 3 years ago. Right. And now finally it makes sense and I understand it and I can move forward with it. But I think anytime you have an idea, anytime you hear or see something that sparks a connection, I think it's because it's meant for you. Right. And I think so often people logic their way out of it. Well, I don't know how to do that. I don't have the money to do that. I don't have the time to do that. I think we logic ourselves out of our ideas, but I don't believe we have ideas that weren't meant for us. I think that's how things work in the universe, is that the ideas that come to us are because they're meant for us. Right.
It's interesting you mentioned that, something from years back. I was picked up a journal that I'd written, was just flipping through it the other day, dated 2014, and it was the exact same thing of what I'm trying to do now. I was like, I even forgot I wrote that down.
Yeah. So. Yeah. It just plants itself, right? It plants itself. And sometimes you can go a while without even thinking about it again, but it's still there, you know? And even, I had the idea a couple of years ago to write a book, and I started it. I got a good ways done with it. It just doesn't make sense right now. The pieces don't all come together, but I know that at some point in the future, the pieces will come together and I can finish it. It's just not right now. And then, I actually started a program teaching people how to do what I do and helping people start their own social club like mine. And I had that idea several years ago, but my program wasn't big enough to support that at the time. Now it is, and I'm teaching other people how to start their own. So the idea was several years ago. It just wasn't ready yet,
Right. It's like when you're baking or cooking, it's got to stay in the oven just a certain length of time at a certain temperature, or you're not going to have a cake.
Yeah. I was thinking of like a kangaroo analogy, where like the little Joey has to be in the pouch, it can't just come out into the world ready to go. It's got to be in the pouch,
Yeah. Some things take time, and that's what's difficult about being impulsive too. We want it now.
Yes.
But if we don't slow that down and say, it has to finish baking or Joey has to finish growing before we can have it.
Yes.
So
Very true.
That's that pacing yourself.
Yeah.
So, well, again, is there another piece of advice that you'd want to leave with us today?
I think I just want to reiterate how I feel about ideas and inspiration. Everybody has ideas of things that they want to do, want to be, want to go, that we've blown off. We all do. And I think, even yesterday when we were talking about my triathlons and how I went to New Zealand and Australia, that was just an impulsive decision as well. The pieces fell together for that to happen. I did not intend on going by myself. I don't think I would have clicked the button if I knew I was going by myself, but that's what happened, is I ended up going by myself. But it's because I had already clicked the button and I'd already registered for everything. And so when it became clear I was going on my own, I'm not backing out of that. But right. I don't think I would have signed up for it to begin with if I thought I was going on my own. So I think it's, just kind of piggybacking on that, whatever those ideas are that keep coming up in your world, that somebody says something about it, you see something that reminds you of it, you just can't let it go. It's because you're not meant to let it go.
Right.
And it could even be, maybe you could join a Facebook group that's about this idea. Maybe you can, buy some books that are about this idea. Whatever the idea is that you have, do you know other people who have done this thing that you want to do? Just put yourself in that world, And one of the things that I remind myself of a lot is whatever it is I want to do, how many other people in the world have already done this? Mm-hmm. It must be pretty darn doable. Right. Because there's a lot of other people in the world who have already done this. So starting my business, getting my pilot's license, speaking foreign languages, doing an Ironman. There's nothing in my life I've done that I'm the only person who's done it, except maybe like what my business is, right? But there's nothing in my life that thousands, millions of other people have not already done, and done it much better than me. But my point is that, don't just, whatever those thoughts and ideas are, they're yours. That's why they're in your brain, is because they're yours. Mm-hmm. So just like in the Ironman, what's today's task? What can I do today to move closer to it? Join a group, take lessons, buy a book, connect with someone online who's already doing that thing, right? I mean, even if you want to start a podcast, right? You can join a group. You can connect to other people. You can start listening to a bunch of people's podcasts and get an idea of what you want yours to sound like. I think, again, we get overwhelmed with the long-term big picture, but what can you do today that moves you one day closer to that thing you can't let go of?
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for being with us here today on Friends Day Fridays. And Steph is going to join us one more time tomorrow for Show and Tell Saturdays. And we're going to hear more about some more details about her podcast and details about her Starfish Social Club and what she does and all that. So thank you, Steph, and we will see you tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll see you then.